People who have had somebody die for you, what happened? Story 1. My brother jumped in front of his wife when a maniac was trying to run them over. My brother was killed on November 15, 2015 in Eugene, Oregon, while on a weekend getaway. He and his wife had just finished breakfast and were walking back to their car to go back to the place they were staying. As they were crossing the road, a man in a Toyota Highlander, who had just beat his parents with a baseball bat, killing the father and permanently injuring his mother, decided to drive into my brother and his wife at full speed. According to the police reconstruction and witnesses, my brother put his body in front of his wife's and took the brunt of the impact. He was killed instantly, and my brother's body slammed into his wife, breaking nearly all her bones on the left side of her body. She lived. Story 2. I'm late to the party, so many won't see this, but I wanted to put this out there. Obvious throwaway because people know my personal account, and I'm not ready to talk about it with most people. Most details are intentionally made ambiguous. The irony that I'm posting it here for everyone is not lost on me. I was in Afghanistan in 2011, working in humanitarian assistance / human terrain analysis. I was working in the southern part of a city in the southeast of the country, working in various villages / communities over the course of a few weeks. I have Middle Eastern / Southwest Asian features, so the Afghans took a liking to me. I got to know one village community particularly well, to the point that one of the younger boys, about 13, would always walk with me holding my hand, a sign of friendship in their culture. We'd talk about life in America, what his life was like in his Afghanistan, what he wanted to be when he grew up. Basic shit, nothing serious. I left that community to work in other parts of the region for a little while with the intention of coming back for one more visit before I went back to HQ to write reports and shit. So I go back for that one visit to find the community cold to me, which is very unusual in Pashtunwali. Pashtun is the ethnicity of the people in the area. Pashtunwali is like their ethnic code of conduct. As we're leaving the area, we found the body of the kid that was hanging out with me. He was executed by gunshot and left to rot in a ditch. He didn't die for me in the sense that he sacrificed himself for my sake. Rather, he died for being my friend. The people of that community refused to speak to any NATO forces after that. Story 3. Rwandan genocide survivor here. I lost my dad during the Rwandan genocide when I was 4 years old. He died protecting my sister, my mother, and me. The genocide was basically between two tribes, Hutus and Tutsis. My parents were each from different tribes. To make a long story short, both tribes were willing to take all of us in, but the non-verbal agreement was that the parent that wasn't from the appropriate tribe would be dealt with. Not wanting my mom to die, my dad chose to bring us to her tribe's side of the conflict, thus sealing his own death in the process. He was taken to some woods somewhere, and he had his head chopped off. What always gets to me is my mom telling me how he silently cried as he was taken away. Story 4. October 13th, 2011. My aunt and uncle invited me to come down with them for a wedding party they were having at their house in Logan for one of their friends. I accepted, packed my stuff to stay for a weekend, and got into their car. We were just chatting while driving through Logan Canyon from my house to theirs. It was nice because I hadn't really talked to them since I moved up there. Well, all of a sudden I hear my aunt say, "Steve, Steve." I look up and see a red truck right in front of us. It hits and I black out. I wake up in a lot of pain, and everything smelt weird and I couldn't talk. My aunt gets out of the car and is panicking and asking if my uncle and I are okay, which I'm still surprised that she could to this day because she had a broken disc in her back. My uncle had died on impact. I learned later that he turned the car just in time to take the full brunt of everything. Something that still makes me very uncomfortable is recalling this event. I can still clearly remember him breathing, but it was gurgling and like he was trying to breathe. Apparently his brain had split in two or something. I don't know if that's a thing that can happen, I just remember being told that. I get upset thinking about it. I feel like I heard him dying. Everyone thought I walked out of there okay until a few days later my intestines burst because a portion of them had been killed, though I walked out of the car with broken glasses and a bruised arm, somehow no broken bones. I tried looking up articles on the accident. This was the only one that really sums everything up. Story 5. I have been sussy for a couple of months when I was 21. I guess it's always been there, but some things in my life triggered it. I knew I didn't want to die, but something inside me was telling me it's the right choice and that no one really wanted me in their life. So I started to plan my suicide, without anyone knowing. Around that time, My sister-in-law got sick and passed away right on New Year's Eve, and suddenly I got 2 small children to care for. At first, I didn't know what to do. My plans were basically changed super fast. I didn't have time to think on what just happened. But these children changed me. I started to see that yes, I am worth something and needed, and nothing makes me cry so much than thinking of dying and leaving these kids with more death in their life. I don't know if it counts or not, but I was basically saved by these kids and their mom. Story 6. My brother died for me 13 years ago yesterday. We were alone at a beach in Mexico, no lifeguards, while our dad was taking care of some business. The water had been rough the day before, but my brother wanted to take a swim, so we went in anyway. Messing around in the water with one of those disposable underwater cameras, we got distracted and didn't realize how far we'd been pulled out. Suddenly we realized we were in a rip current and how big the waves around us were. Tried to swim back but couldn't, and at this point I'm panicking, yelling for help, and telling my brother I don't want to die. He says I won't, stays with me, and yells for help. Someone at one of the beachside restaurants finally notices us and jumps into the water with a boogie board. They swim up to us and tell us to hang on to the board. My brother and I are holding hands and the board, together. 1 wave later, and we're ripped apart. That was the last time I saw him. I live for him every day. He was and is my best friend. Story 7. My mom died giving birth to me. I didn't find out about the circumstances of her death until I was 7, and my aunt said something about it to me. It messed me up for a while. I often wonder what my life would have been like if she was around. I had very little female influence in my life. I was raised by my dad and 5 brothers. Dad just treated me like one of the boys, so I grew up working on cars and motorcycles. My dad has never dated anyone since. That sometimes makes me sad too. I look at all the joy my husband brings into my life and want that for him, but I think he is just done with that part of his life. My brothers will sometimes tell stories about her. It's really the only way I know anything about her. There are some pictures around too. People tell me I look just like her and have the same attitude. I just have to take their word for it. I'm older now than she ever was. I look at all the things going on in my life, and I feel incredibly guilty for taking that away from her. It makes me want to live my life in a way that I think would make her proud. Story 8. We sold drugs, and let's call him Jay. I got into it to help him out, but it was my choice all the way. We were just kids. I was 15. On our days off, we posted up outside a liquor store and just hung out, talked about whatever came to mind. Maybe we had some customers pass by, put some work in, but that wasn't why we hung out there. It was quiet, nobody bothered us much, and we got to just chill. Apparently he had a reputation I wasn't aware of with some other crew, because one day I saw a car around the corner after sunset with no lights on. They didn't stop, but slowed down around the store, and I thought, alright, sketchy customer, get the bags ready. Then the window came down and I saw the barrel stick out. I froze, but Jay was quick, got in front of me and brought me down while I just heard 2 shots, and then the car speeding away. I got grazed, but he got hit in his midsection and in the head. He was a lot taller than me, so the headshot missed me completely. He didn't die immediately. I held him and called 911. I don't remember talking to the operator. I just remember looking at him and being able to tell the second he died. It really is a lights-out moment where they just aren't there anymore. I've recently learned that the name for what I did after that was called keening. Moaning or screaming in response to someone's death. I just yelled and yelled, cried and screamed. It's been 12 years and I'm fine now, but I keep his memory with me and realize that we put ourselves in that danger, so I take more responsibility for the situations I put myself and my loved ones in. Story 9. My English may be weird, I am sorry. I don't know if this counts, and I don't want to go into detail, but my mother took me when I was 8 years old from Sinuiju, North Korea, with a refugee group to the north of the border of China and North Korea, and fled to Thailand and then to South Korea. The important thing is that my family, father and my extended family, still lived in Sinuiju. They did not want to leave due to fear of capture and fear of the United States propaganda, so my mother took it in her own hands. Most likely my family has perished for my mother and my actions. My mother towards the end told me that longer we stay alive, the bad memories that we have will slowly be replaced by new good memories. We just have to stay alive. My mother has since passed away. She became deranged and stressed that led to her death at an early age, and I since moved to the United States after graduating at Seoul National University in English and Business International. Because of my family's sacrifice, I can have a somewhat normal life, but I can never forgive myself for my mother and my actions, and I have never told anyone. I don't deserve this life, but I have to live with it. Story 10. He was a stranger. His death saved me and 3 others. The circumstance surrounding his death will never be completely known, as mistakes were made during his medical care. At the time of his death, I had already been on an artificial heart for 11 months and was probably about 2 weeks from death myself. It had been a 3-year journey for me and my family. Getting listed for transplant and then sitting on that list was grueling. I was simply done. I received his heart on November 1st, 14. Although the recovery still goes on, I'm alive and enjoying my life. His name was for Tim, and I now know his family. Story 11. I got permission to tell this story. My cousin was swimming in a seemingly calm part of a river with a large group of people near his college. At some point he went under the water and wasn't coming back up. Under the surface was a whirlpool that had caught him and wasn't letting go. His best friend dove in to save him and managed to get my cousin out of the whirlpool, but sadly got stuck himself. My cousin wasn't breathing when they pulled him out, and they spent several minutes before they could revive him. He's okay now. Sadly, his friend didn't make it. I never knew the kid, but I think of the sacrifice he made to save my cousin all the time, and will be forever grateful for it. Story 12. Not the typical altruistic life-saving event, but I'll go on. I'm an identical triplet. We started out as quadruplets, but the 4th little homie took one for the team, as he stopped developing sometime during my mother's pregnancy. This allowed the remaining clones to develop healthy and well, utilizing the nutrients that would have been split by 4 down to 3. Pouring one out for you, Max. Story 13. My mother's boyfriend died protecting her and her mother from being kidnapped in a mall parking lot back in the 80s. It was at night, and they were leaving the mall when 2 men came up and attempted to kidnap them. My mother's boyfriend got in between them and was shot point blank in the head and died instantly. The men were caught and jailed, but I am pretty sure they are out now. My mom and the mother of the man killed sued the mall, and won because there was no lighting in the parking lot, and the overall general safety of the mall was questionable before the incident. After the lawsuit, lights were installed in the parking lot for better visibility. It really affected my mom and shaped her into the person she is today, unfortunately for the worse. She has struggled with many things after the incident and was never the same. She does not feel comfortable in many situations and does not dream. She said that she had such bad nightmares afterwards that she eventually just stopped dreaming altogether. My mother doesn't like to talk about it much. From what I have been told, was that she will never forget what a brain looks like. The woman who was the mother of the deceased went on to become a relative to my family regardless of her not actually being blood related. The man was her only son, so she did not have much left. She is my grandma and has helped my family out countless ways throughout the years, and I love her very much. My mother became her daughter, and us her grandkids. My mom went on to marry a good friend of her deceased boyfriend, and that is how my siblings and I came to be. Without him sacrificing himself for my mom, I would not be here today. He died a hero, and I am thankful for his sacrifice. Thank you, Ricky. Story 14. My mother essentially died for me. I was 3 months old. My mother was giving me a bath in the kitchen sink. My 3-year-old brother was in a high chair having dinner. My father had just come home from performing an home inspection and was finishing his paperwork downstairs before coming up to dinner. He heard my mother cry out his name, in a tone that was off, is how he put it. He sprung from his chair, ran up the stairs to the kitchen to find my mother holding me in the sink with her head down. He snatched me from her hands. She immediately collapsed on the floor unconscious. She died 3 days later in the hospital of a cerebral hemorrhage. Her last act was to keep me from drowning in the kitchen sink. My brother witnessed it all and was scarred for a long, long time. I never knew my mother, but that is the personification of a mother's love. Because I suspect people will ask. I've been told that in the months leading up to her death, she would fall into essentially comatose sleeps, was tired all the time, headaches, etc. They chalked it up to postpartum and having a newborn and a 3-year-old. But she had probably had this brain bleed for a long time prior to that fateful December day. But there's a twist. 30 years later, my daughter was born in the same hospital she died in. She has her grandmother's name. Life's full circle. Story 15. Not exactly what you're looking for, but this past summer my family discovered that my beloved uncle had in fact embezzled the bulk of my grandparents' funds, $600K, over the last 9 years of managing their financial affairs. When I confronted him, he arranged to meet me the next day to turn over records. Instead, he wrote a note blaming me and overdosed in the place we were supposed to meet, about an hour before the meeting. It's only by sheer chance that his wife found him instead of me. His wife 100% blames me for causing his death. It's been a lot to process. While I didn't expect this to get so much attention. Thank you all for taking the time to send me your kind words. It means a lot. I've been getting some counseling to handle the fallout of it all. While I know that it wasn't technically my fault, knowing that his last act on earth was to direct malicious energy at me is a really painful reality. I loved him very much, but I've had to realize we never really knew him for who he was. While my aunt blames me, their kids don't. In fact, my cousin got into a huge fight with his mom defending me. I am grateful for his support. I only wish it wasn't necessary. The whole thing has been really hard. Story 16. One day I came home and my fiancée was gone. Detectives finally came and told me they found his body at the place he proposed to me at. They strung me on that it was a murder for months until they released his goodbye letter. He shot himself in the mouth, through the brain, because I'm not good for you. I want you to be an amazing mother, and I want child's name to have a good father figure. It's been amazing watching you grow into who you are. So here I am years later, still confused and hurt that he says he killed himself for me and for my daughter. Still not healed and never will be. I know this isn't what Opie wanted, but it's what I got. Story 17. When my mother was pregnant with me, she found out that she had cervical cancer during a doctor's exam. Apparently, the records from a previous test indicated that she had cancer for a while before this, but it was missed due to a technician or doc misreading her results. The cancer had advanced to a crucial point where she might have a fighting chance at remission and survival if she began receiving treatment immediately, but in doing so, it would mean that she would have to terminate her pregnancy. As my family recounts the story, the doctor told her about this option, and she promptly told him exactly where he could go. Ultimately, she decided to carry me to term and later died from the illness that was eating her. I was too young to have any real memories of her, and I'm not sure if this story really counts as dying for someone in the sense that Opie means. But I often think about the decision that she made, though, and if I would have done the same if I were in her position. I've wondered sometimes if her decision would be the same if she could see me at certain points in my life and the type of person I've been. Story 18. It might not count since it wasn't a person, but I think it keeps with the spirit of the question, so here goes. When I was about 10 or so, we lived on a farm. We had an Australian blue heeler named Smokey. He was an amazing dog, full of love for anyone he met. Smokey lived in a huge pen behind the barn, and it was my job to feed him and get his water when I got out of school. So one day I go out to the pen and start to open the gate. Smokey was acting very strange. He was pacing back and forth, the ridge of fur on his neck raised, and when I made a move to step over into the pen, he growled at me. This was new. Smokey had never even growled at me when we were roughhousing, so something was up. I kinda stepped back as he bared his teeth at me. I was scared, and the first thing that crossed my mind was that he had been bitten by something rabid. So I closed the gate and start walking around the pen. As I moved away from the gate, he trotted along the fence, tongue lolling, happy grin on his face, just like always. At this point I was super confused, but decided just to push the damn dog out of the way and feed him whether he liked it or not. So I go back to the gate. Smokey follows, and once again as I made to step in, he starts growling. I was only around 10 at the time, but he wasn't a huge dog, so I kinda pushed him with my foot to get him out of the way. And Smokey bit me. He lunged up and bit me right below the knee. I was wearing jeans so it didn't break the skin, but I was scared shitless of my old friend. I fell backwards out of the pen and then ran for the house. I told my grandma something was wrong with Smokey and that he had tried to bite me. She too was afraid of rabies, but since there weren't puncture wounds on me, she decided to wait until my dad got home to figure out what to do. He got off work about 2 hours after this happened and immediately went out to the pen. He found Smokey dead, lying pushed up against the gate like he had been blocking it. In the lean-to where I would have gone to get Smoke's food, he found not one but 2 huge rattlesnakes. When he looked over the dog's body, Smokey's face had swollen around the cheek. He had been bitten. I know it doesn't carry the same weight as if a human had consciously decided to die for me, but I know my good boy was keeping me out of that pen for a reason. Story 19. My father. I was assaulted when I was 9. He confronted the man that did it, beat his ass. Man came back and shot him in the head. My mother has hated me ever since, so I lost 2 parents in one day. It has affected me in the sense that I'm hyper-vigilant in protecting my son. I have read the thread to this, and would like to make something clear. I don't blame my mother, because I understand some things about trauma. I do appreciate the kind words some have offered. Story 20. Not me, of course, but a family friend with his wife. His wife had cancer, but was treatable through chemo and stuff, and thus he was always in the hospital with her for the last 3 months being company for her, that he eventually lost his job cause he just wanted to be with her. The wife didn't know any of this, and just assumed he was given time off given the circumstances and such. Eventually, she did find out, and boy was she angry at him. How you gonna pay for the house and the hospital bills when I am out, blah blah blah. I was visiting her that day in the hospital that day when she found out. Anyway, she demanded the hospital to stop treatment that exact date because she didn't want him to go to debt for her. She passed a week later surrounded by her family and friends. Everyone was giving the husband a hard time cause technically, she passed for his sake. He eventually was able to recover, but he is very much a recluse now, and he blames himself for her death. Story 21. I was involved with some pretty sketchy people as a teenager, and was part of a skinhead crew for several years. I'm no longer a racist or part of that lifestyle. When I was 14, I leaving a show with a friend and walking to the bus stop because neither of us had our driver's license yet. A few guys came and started hassling us because our clothes and look made it obvious what we were. When he got swung at, he fought back and they all piled up on him. I tried to pull one off, and they turned on me and got me down on the ground. He ended up pretty much wrapping himself around me to protect me. I don't remember much, but I had some head injuries and a collapsed lung from several broken ribs, and had trouble shielding myself. I lost consciousness and woke up in the hospital, where I find out he'd died because we were both on the ground being kicked with steel-toed boots for a long time before anybody intervened. Only a few people know the story, because I don't like sharing that part of my life, and most of our friends who knew turned on me when I left that lifestyle. His parents blamed me, and I don't even know where he's buried, because I was in the hospital during the funeral. The insane part was starting my freshman year of high school a couple months later, like nothing had happened. Story 22. Dog story. Had a border collie named Rascal growing up. He was walking with us while we walked a couple of our friends home. Our neighborhood was super safe, but there were these 2 really mean Rottweilers that were barely contained by a decrepit fence along the road back to our friend's house. Every time we passed by them, they would lunge at us, hitting the fence, snarling. Well, we were walking past them, and that particular day, when those dogs lunged, the fence didn't hold. Our sweet pupper jumped between us and the Rottweilers before they could tear us apart. Each of those Rottweilers weighed nearly double than any of us kids, and quite a bit more than that compared to Rascal. But Rascal kept them at bay until a neighbor came running to our rescue. At first the neighbor tried to beat the dogs away with a 9-iron. That didn't work, so he resorted to a taser before they backed off. Turns out those poor dogs had been trained to be fighters. Their owner wound up in jail over the entire thing. Rascal didn't make it. It was tragic, but I am so grateful to that beautiful, wonderful dog for saving our lives, as well as our neighbor. I know I'll see him again someday. I don't blame the dogs who killed him, and I know some wonderful Rottweilers, pit bulls, etc., but collies will always have a special place in my heart. Story 23. My best friend ended herself because of me. I was always her go-to, her only friend. She was constantly mentally ill, and from the time I was 10 until I was 14 my life revolved around helping her and our other friend. Our other friend turned out to be lying about everything for kicks and shits. Whatever, that's another story. So it was just us. She confessed she was in love, had a crush, whatever, with me when we were 13. I was dating someone else, and I kept the fact I was gay hidden to even myself until I was around 15. So I rejected her, but said we can still be friends. She was heartbroken. One day I went out with my family, and she texted me a suicide note. She's done this before, but I was just so tired. I just wanted to spend time with my family. And then I came home and tried to message her, nothing. Kept trying, nothing. Called the police as I'd done many times previous, and she was discovered with a knife in her neck, self-inflicted. She'd actually killed herself this time. Her parents blame me and hate me. They used to send me death threats / say it should have been me, and not their little girl, and I wasn't allowed to attend the funeral. Only recently did I get the bravery to visit her grave. I don't know. I'm not an alcoholic as in I rarely drink, but every year during the week of her anniversary I'm shit-faced and depressed and don't talk to anyone, don't attend school. I think I've just kept pushing it down, but I see her everywhere and I hear her in all my songs, and it's just tough. Sorry for the rant. I'm not looking for pity or anything, and I know the whole people choose to take their lives, it's not your fault. But I don't think, in this case, I'll ever believe it's not my fault. Her suicide note was addressed to only me. Her suicide note was mostly about me. It was me. She died because of me. Edit. While this is my most upvoted comment, and my most depressing one, LMAO. Thank you guys for the supporting words. It's been a while since I've heard anyone be kind to me about this topic. I do have a therapist, and despite the guilt, I think I'm doing okay. I rarely talk about this, so I mostly wrote this comment as a rant, and honestly I didn't think anyone would care, but the fact you have all commented and supported me despite what I personally believe about myself has brought genuine tears to my eyes. I'm working on turning this into a I'm living for both of us situation. It's just hard. I'm 18 now, so this was like 4 years ago. Thank you again for saying all these kind things, sharing your personal experiences, and everything else. Story 24. I'm really late to this, so this will probably be ignored, but whatever, I can answer this. When I was 16, it was just me and my dad. My mom had passed away a few years before, so my dad was raising a teenage daughter alone while trying to run a business that his heart wasn't in. My mom wanted the business mainly. One night my dad tells me that he needs to go meet a friend and that he'd be home late. This was fairly normal, so I didn't really think much of it. Off he went. That night I was woken at 4 a.m. to 2 police officers at the door. They sit me down and tell me that my dad's car had been found parked beside a bridge, and a male body was on the road below the bridge. They told me that my dad had committed suicide. He left a note solely addressed to me, that essentially vaguely said he had got involved in something dodgy, and the other people had threatened to hurt me to get back at him. The only way he felt he could protect me was to take himself out of the picture. This was 8 years ago now, and I still have no idea what he was involved in or what went down. The last line of the note really stuck with me. It said, "Please make something of your life." I haven't. I've done my absolute best since that day and have managed to graduate uni and get myself a good job with well above average pay for my age. I've met an amazing guy and am truly happy. I obviously miss my dad every day, but he did push me to become who I am now, and I really owe him for that. Story 25. My grandfather was a pilot in Vietnam. He mostly flew cargo and troops from place to place. Relatively safe job, all things considered. One day, he's supposed to fly in to drop off and pick up supplies. His co-pilot, James, is the same rank as him. So they flip a coin to see who the pilot is on the way there, and pilot on the way back. My understanding is that the pilot sits on one side, co-pilot grabs the other. Well, my grandfather flips and gets co-pilot on the way there, dropping off some supplies. The flight to base was easy enough, and they make it without a hitch. They flew in on a C-7A Caribou. The plane is a moderately sized 2-prop engine that can carry no more than 3 dozen or so people. My grandfather and James load up 15 troops and some additional cargo and take off from base. Again, my grandfather flipped the coin and got pilot on the way back. About 150 feet in the air, an engine goes out and the plane crashes. My grandfather does what he can to get the bird down safely, safer than just letting gravity have its way, I imagine. Luckily, the landing strip they were on was surrounded by rice paddy fields, so the ground was extremely soft and soggy. My grandfather busts both of his knees and needed surgery to walk again. The troops in the back break a couple wrists and get bruised up a little, and James died on impact. There was nothing they could do to stop this from happening. My grandfather has all of the classified photos of the wreck, of the engine, and the part that failed. The official verdict was debris got lodged in the engine and forced to stall. Unavoidable. The pictures show the field they landed in not even a half-mile from where the wheels left the ground, the trail where the plane touched down, about a dozen pictures of mangled wreck, the cockpit, and the engine that failed. I know James didn't give his life for me, but he did for my grandfather, who wouldn't be here otherwise. He did for my grandmother, who would be a single mom with 1 child. My uncles, born after the war. Lastly, my 5 cousins. My whole family wouldn't be here if that coin landed on its different face.